it got crazy, and it continues to be crazy. There are so many different coaching changes happening in college football this year, period. In SEC, I think has 5 new coaches. Biggest one, of course, happening over in Ames, Iowa over this weekend. And Matt Campbell decides to leave Iowa State, head over to Penn State. Penn State finally figures out their head coaching search. Takes, 57 days before their coaching search is figured out. And then for the record, 57 minutes later, Iowa State goes ahead and hires their new coach in Jimmy Rogers. So 10 years of Matt Campbell at Iowa State only lasts about, 10 blinks of an eye before they wind up replacing him. But Matt Campbell going to Penn State. Is this the right move, going from James Franklin to Matt Campbell, to see if they can be a championship contender against Ohio State, Michigan, all those teams? Indiana, let's not forget about them. Big Ten with Matt Campbell.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious when you look at my background who I root for, right? So I have a strong connection to Matt Campbell. I would say that this was the right hire by Penn State. I would, and honestly, the way that the whole thing shook down for Penn State with how long it took, the best way that this got put on the internet over the weekend was Penn State was that guy who struck out 15 times at the bar and then still went home with a 10 at 2:30 in the morning. Like, nice. How did that happen? How did they somehow walk away with Matt Campbell? And I think really this is a great opportunity for Matt Campbell to show what he's capable of, because how many years in a row have we talked about Matt Campbell and said, man, can you imagine this coach if he wasn't at old poverty Iowa State? I don't love that as an Iowa State fan, but I think it's a fair argument. Iowa State's certainly not the biggest school in the nation. Penn State, definitely up there. I mean, I've been to the Whiteout game. I've seen that stadium. It's unbelievable, the resources that Penn State has in comparison to Iowa State. I think this is a great opportunity for Matt Campbell to prove himself, really cement himself as one of the best coaches of all time. It's got a long ways to go, of course, but definitely an opportunity to open that door. And as far as Penn State goes, there was nobody else that they could have taken at that point in their coaching search. This was the right guy.
Yeah, James Franklin obviously moving on. He's now the head coach at Virginia Tech. He's bringing back old Penn State guys. Brent Pry, former head coach of Virginia Tech, also his defensive coordinator at Penn State, going to be back with him with the Hokies, and that's going to be interesting. But a lot of things that still are, I guess you could say, issues that happened with the James Franklin firing is their recruiting class. The 2026 recruiting class for Penn State is atrocious. And obviously there's probably going to be some Iowa State recruits that jump over the Penn State. But even if that happens, this recruiting class is still absolutely terrible. Last time I checked, they were in the 150 ranges, and that's unheard of for a Penn State team. I'm talking the Akron Zips are ahead of Penn State Nittany Lions when it comes to recruiting ranks. That should not happen in college football in this era, no matter what. If the head coach moves on, anything like that, if you are Penn State, if you are a team that is seen to be a college football playoff contender, you were in the Big 12 championship last year, you got yourself to the college football play. They won the Big 10 last year, right? So there is a lot of things to make you wonder. The biggest question for James Franklin was, hey, can you win the big game? Of course, that didn't happen. They wound up moving on from him. They fire him in the middle of the season after having a down start. A lot of other big schools had a down start as well. I mean, I'm going to go full disclosure here. I thought Penn State was a national championship caliber team heading into the season. I also thought Clemson was too. I was completely off this year. Don't get me wrong, but I didn't have firing James Franklin on my bingo card, let alone have Matt Campbell show up as new head coach for Penn State. How long does it take for Matt Campbell to get Penn State back in the conversation? We mentioned Ohio State, obviously a tough team. Michigan's back on the rise, you can make the argument for, and Indiana doesn't seem like they're going anywhere. Of course, Oregon's still in the mix. Washington seems like a really tough team as well in the Big Ten. This is a tough conference, no doubt. How long does it take for Penn State to get back in college football playoff consideration?
Oh man, I'm gonna answer that in a second, but I just first wanted to mention you're exactly right. Penn State's at 155 right now for 24/7 Sports, with 2 4-star commits. And that is the entirety of their recruiting rankings. Unbelievable.
And Akron's above.
I don't know if you've Central Arkansas at 150. If I showed you that logo, I can almost guarantee that you would not know who that was. I unbelievable. As far as Iowa State players, I believe their portal actually opens as we speak today. To my understanding, Iowa State players can jump into the portal and they'll have 15 days to do so. Not entirely sure how that works out because Quentin Taylor Jr. already did jump into the portal, but nonetheless, we should get some more news on that over the next few days. As far as Penn State getting back into the fold, John Hecock's going to come over with the 3-3-5. That's my only concern with this Penn State team right now. I don't know if their defense is elite enough in the Big Ten. I think Matt Campbell's a great head coach. He's going to build this great program over the next 2-3 years. His recruiting is unbelievable. John Hecock as DC, we saw him struggle at times with Iowa State and running the program that he, or the style of defense he likes to run. Now, that being said, at the exact same time, somehow he turned the defense around this year with basically 2 defensive backs on the entire roster. So give him some credit. I say Penn State is back in the fold in probably 2-3 years. As far as the committee's concerned, I think they're going to get the benefit of the doubt as that big time program. But as far as contending for a Big Ten championship, I give it at least probably 4.
You think Penn State fans can be patient enough for that? They weren't very patient with James Franklin this season. Of course, obviously, it's more than 3-4 years from them winning the big game. But again, you were in the Big Ten championship game just last year. You were in the college football playoffs just last year, and you don't finish the season, the expectations of being a national championship contender. I wasn't the only one, by the way. That was completely wrong. And you wind up firing James Franklin in the middle of the season with a huge buyout, might I add. $54 million, I think his buyout was. You think Penn State fans are going to be patient enough to let Matt Campbell, a guy that turned around Iowa State? Before Iowa State, they were 2-10, 3-9, all that good stuff. Took them 10 years to get them to be contention and win their first double-digit season last year in the program's history. How long is it going to take for Iowa State to finally say, if it takes them 2-3 years to get back to the mountaintops, okay, maybe this was the wrong decision?
I don't know for sure. I don't know a ton of Penn State fans, but I would just say this to them. If I had the opportunity to tell them something as kind of a guy who's been on the other side, I think you have to understand that that's what Matt Campbell did at Iowa State. And I think a lot of them realize they're getting into that here. Like, Matt Campbell has been known for rebuilding Iowa State. Like, it took him a while because Iowa State wasn't very good when he came over from Toledo, but he did that. And I think Penn State fans, if I were to tell them anything, it's literally trust the process. Now, you're going to have down years, you're going to have up years. Look at the 4-10 year or whatever it was after one of our best seasons in 2020, I think is when it was. You're going to have those years. You just got to trust Matt Campbell. The process is absolutely there. He left Iowa State in a much better place than he showed up. I don't know if they will. That's a great question. I'm pleading for them because I want Matt Campbell to succeed, but that was our main concern as Iowa State fans, was like, what is he doing over there? Is he going to get any leash? They're going to basically be firing or chanting for them to fire him after 2-3 years. I hope for his sake he can turn it around quickly. I don't know.
I've seen it in the comments. The biggest question we probably got to ask today on this Monday right here on Marvin Rao in the Morning. Is Penn State an East Coast team?
Absolutely. All right. I've made the drive myself. What do you think?
I love that. People get so mad about it when you talk about saying that it's like, it's not on the East Coast, it's 3-4 hours away. Well, in the eyes, if you're from the Midwest or from the West Coast and you're talking about something like Penn State, yeah, they're an East Coast team. There's no doubt about that. So if maybe we're just bad at looking at a map. I don't know.
I can see where someone would say, like, oh, they're not technically next to a body of water, but they are way further east than Ames. I'll say that much.
Well, they might be next to a body of water, and it might be Penn State fans' tears if Matt Campbell doesn't figure things out in 3 to 4 years. Like you said, the patience, I think, is wearing really thin on Penn State trying to get themselves back to being a national championship contender. And I think that it was a wrong decision, personally. I think James Franklin is going to probably make Penn State pay. I don't think that's going to be on behalf of Matt Campbell's reasoning. I think he's going to do a good job. But I think James Franklin's going to quickly turn around Virginia Tech. I really do. We'll talk about that in the future and probably another episode down the road. James Franklin conversation has to happen. But I think he's going to really make them pay. That's just something that just sits in the back of my mind. Like, I don't know if that was the right decision. $54 million is a big risk for you to move on from a guy who just got you to the college football playoffs just last season.
Yeah, I mean, when that news came through, everyone I knew was like, I cannot believe that just happened. That was a shocker.
I agree completely.